Have you ever felt like you're losing your mind in a relationship? Like you're constantly walking on eggshells around the sweetest person everyone else knows? Here's what nobody tells you. The most dangerous narcissists aren't the loud, obvious ones. They're the quiet angels who make you feel like the villain in your own story. If you've ever questioned your own sanity, wondered why you feel so drained after spending time with your seemingly perfect partner, or found yourself apologizing for things you didn't even do, you might be dealing with a covert narcissist. And here's the terrifying truth. They're harder to spot than a traditional narcissist, but potentially even more damaging to your mental health. In this video, I'm going to show you the 7 deadliest signs of covert narcissism that most people miss completely. By the end of this video, you'll have the psychological tools to recognize these patterns and protect yourself. The last sign I'm going to share is so subtle yet so devastating that it might completely reframe your entire relationship. Stay with me. Your mental health depends on it. Sign number 1. The victim card master. Let me paint you a picture. You come home exhausted after a 12-hour workday, hoping for a little support from your partner. Instead, they immediately launch into how their day was so much worse, how their co-worker was rude, how the cashier at the store didn't smile, how they've been suffering in silence all day while you were out having fun at work. Sound familiar? This is the covert narcissist's signature move, competitive victimhood. Unlike grandiose narcissists who demand attention through superiority, covert narcissists demand it through suffering. They've weaponized vulnerability, turning every conversation into a contest of who has it worse, and they always win. Here's what's happening psychologically. They're using what experts call emotional terrorism. Every time you try to express a need, share a problem, or ask for support, they hijack the conversation with their own greater suffering. This serves 2 purposes. It maintains them as the center of attention, and it trains you to stop bringing up your own needs entirely. The damage this causes is profound. Over time, you learn that your problems aren't important, your feelings don't matter, and your role in this relationship is to be the caretaker, not the cared for. You start editing yourself, minimizing your own struggles, and eventually you forget that your needs are valid at all. Your protection strategy. Try the acknowledgement and redirect technique. Say something like, "I hear that you had a difficult day, and we can talk about that. Right now, I need 5 minutes to share what's on my mind." If they can't allow you that space, you have your answer about their true priorities. The most chilling part? They genuinely believe they are the victim. In their mind, everyone else is selfish for not recognizing their superior suffering. This isn't conscious manipulation. It's their default operating system, which makes it even more dangerous. Sign number 2. The passive-aggressive punishment system. Picture this scenario. You make plans to go out with friends on Saturday night. Your partner says they're fine with it, even encourages you to go. But suddenly, they develop a mysterious headache. They become unusually quiet. They start doing household chores with heavy sighs and dramatic movements. When you ask what's wrong, they insist nothing, but their energy screams otherwise. This is passive-aggressive punishment, and covert narcissists are masters of it. They've turned the silent treatment into an art form. Unlike direct confrontation, which would expose their manipulative nature, they punish you through withdrawal, sulking, and creating an atmosphere so uncomfortable that you'd rather cancel your plans than endure it. Here's the psychological warfare at play. They're using what therapists call intermittent reinforcement. Sometimes they're supportive and loving, other times they withdraw their affection as punishment. This creates the same addictive pattern that keeps people hooked on gambling. You never know which version of them you're going to get, so you're constantly trying to earn back their approval. The neurological impact is devastating. Your brain starts operating in a constant state of hypervigilance, always scanning for signs of their disapproval. You begin to abandon your own desires, friends, and activities, not because they directly forbid them, but because the emotional cost becomes too high to bear. What makes this particularly insidious is the gaslighting component. When you confront them about their behavior, they'll act confused and hurt. "I told you to go. I don't know why you're being so sensitive. I was just tired." They rewrite the narrative, making you question your own perception of their obvious displeasure. Your defense mechanism. Name it directly. "I notice that when I make plans without you, you seem to withdraw and become distant. If you're not comfortable with my plans, I'd rather you tell me directly than express it through silence." Watch their reaction. A healthy partner will appreciate the direct communication. A covert narcissist will likely deflect or play victim. The cruel irony? They want you to have no life outside of them, but they'll never take responsibility for that desire. Instead, they'll make you choose isolation voluntarily, believing it was your own decision all along. Sign number 3. The empathy void disguised as sensitivity. Here's where covert narcissists are truly dangerous. They've convinced everyone, including possibly themselves, that they're the most empathetic people in the room. They cry at movies. They get upset about world tragedies. They seem deeply affected by others' pain. But here's what you need to understand. There's a crucial difference between emotional reactivity and genuine empathy. Let me give you a real example. You share with your partner that you're struggling with anxiety about an upcoming presentation at work. A genuinely empathetic person might ask questions, offer support, or simply listen. A covert narcissist will immediately relate it to their own experience. "Oh, that reminds me of when I had to present to the board last year. I was so nervous I couldn't eat for days. It was the worst experience of my life." Notice what happened. They hijacked your vulnerable moment and made it about them. But it doesn't feel like hijacking because they seem so emotional and invested. This is cognitive empathy without effective empathy. They can recognize emotions and even mirror them, but they can't genuinely feel for your experience separately from their own. The psychological term for this is emotional empathy deficit. They're not sociopaths. They do feel emotions, often quite intensely, but those emotions are always filtered through their own experience. They literally cannot imagine what it's like to be you. They can only imagine what it would be like if they were in your situation. This creates a particularly cruel form of loneliness. You're with someone who seems to care deeply, who appears emotionally available, but you never feel truly seen or understood. It's like being hungry and being offered a beautiful photograph of food. It looks like nourishment, but it provides no actual sustenance. The damage compounds over time. You start to believe that you're too needy, too sensitive, or asking for too much emotional support. After all, your partner cares so much about everything. Surely you should be grateful for their emotional intensity, even if it never quite focuses on you. Your reality check. Pay attention to the direction of emotional conversations. Do they consistently redirect your feelings back to their own experiences? When you're in pain, do they make space for your pain, or do they immediately fill that space with their own? True empathy creates space. Narcissistic empathy consumes it. Here's the most disturbing part. They often become counselors, therapists, or helpers professionally. Their emotional reactivity and ability to mirror feelings can make them seem like natural healers. But they're drawn to these roles not to serve others, but to feed their own emotional needs through others' vulnerability. Sign number 4. The superiority complex disguised as humility. This is perhaps the most sophisticated manipulation tactic in the covert narcissist's arsenal. While grandiose narcissists boast about their greatness, covert narcissists achieve the same sense of superiority through what I call humble grandiosity. They're not better than you. Oh no, they would never say that. They're just more spiritual, more conscious, more evolved, more aware of their flaws. Listen to how they talk about themselves. I'm probably too sensitive for this world. I just care too much about people. I see things others don't see, and it's lonely. I'm working on myself so much harder than most people. Notice the pattern? Every self-deprecating statement is actually a claim of superiority. They've mastered the art of competitive enlightenment. They meditate more mindfully. They're more aware of their trauma. They've read more self-help books. They understand psychology better. They don't directly claim to be better than you. Instead, they position themselves as more damaged, more sensitive, more burdened by their own depth and awareness. This is particularly damaging because it's so hard to argue against. How do you challenge someone who's claiming to be too good for this world? How do you confront someone whose superiority is framed as a burden they bear? It's like trying to fight smoke. There's nothing solid to grab onto. The psychological mechanism here is what experts call vulnerable narcissism. They maintain their grandiose self-image not through claims of strength, but through claims of special weakness. They're not better because they're successful. They're better because they're too pure for success. They're not superior because they're popular. They're superior because shallow people don't understand their depth. You'll notice this pattern in how they relate to others. They have deep disdain for normal people who care about superficial things like money, status, or popularity. They position themselves as the misunderstood artist, the wounded healer, the profound thinker that others just can't comprehend. The damage to you is subtle but profound. You start to feel like you're not evolved enough, not conscious enough, not working on yourself hard enough. They never directly criticize you, but their constant self-improvement narrative implies that you're stagnant. You begin to question your own depth, your own awareness, your own growth, your protection strategy. Remember that truly humble people don't need to advertise their humility. Genuine self-awareness doesn't require an audience. When someone constantly talks about how much they're growing, how aware they are of their flaws, or how deeply they feel things, ask yourself, is this genuine introspection, or is this performance? The most dangerous aspect of this manipulation is that it corrupts the very tools meant to help us grow. Therapy language, spiritual concepts, and personal development become weapons of superiority rather than paths to genuine connection and growth. Sign number 5, the expectation trap. This is where covert narcissists reveal their true genius for control. They never explicitly tell you what they want or need. Instead, they create an elaborate web of unspoken expectations and then punish you for failing to meet them. It's like playing a game where the rules change constantly, but you're never told what the new rules are. Here's a typical scenario. It's been a stressful week for both of you. You come home Friday night thinking you'll relax together, maybe order takeout and watch a movie. But your partner seems distant, cold. When you ask what's wrong, they say, "Nothing. I just thought you might have planned something special for us this week." You had no idea they expected this. They never mentioned wanting to go out or do anything particular. This is the expectation trap in action. They've created a need in their mind, assigned you the responsibility to meet it, but never communicated any of this to you. When you inevitably fail to meet their telepathic expectations, they use your failure as evidence that you don't really care about them. The psychological warfare here is particularly sophisticated. They're using what therapists call mind-reading expectations. They believe that if you truly loved them, you would instinctively know what they need without them having to ask. In their worldview, having to communicate needs is a sign that love isn't real or deep enough. This creates an impossible situation for you. You're held responsible for needs you didn't know existed, and when you fail to meet them, it's used as proof of your inadequacy as a partner. Meanwhile, they maintain their position as the long-suffering, disappointed partner whose needs are never met by their insensitive, significant other. The damage this causes is profound and multifaceted. First, you develop hypervigilance, constantly trying to anticipate their needs before they even express them. You become a mind reader, exhausting yourself trying to stay one step ahead of their unspoken expectations. Second, you start to believe that you're genuinely bad at relationships, that you're selfish or unaware of others' needs. What makes this particularly cruel is that the expectations often shift. Just when you think you've figured out what they want, they change the rules. You start planning special dates, and suddenly they want quiet nights at home. You give them space, and suddenly you're being distant and uncaring. You can never win because winning was never the point. Control was. Your defense mechanism: demand explicit communication. When they express disappointment about unmet expectations, respond with something like, "I want to meet your needs, but I need you to tell me what they are. I can't read your mind, and I shouldn't have to." Watch their reaction carefully. They'll likely become more upset that you're not intuitive enough, rather than taking responsibility for unclear communication. The most insidious part of this manipulation is how it corrupts the concept of thoughtfulness itself. Genuine thoughtfulness comes from knowing someone well and choosing to do kind things for them. But under the expectation trap, thoughtfulness becomes a mandatory performance that you can never execute well enough. Sign number 6. The criticism sandwich specialist. Covert narcissists have perfected the art of criticism delivery. They've learned that direct attacks make them look bad, so they've developed more sophisticated methods. They package their attacks in concern, love, or helpful observation. It's like being slowly poisoned with honey. It goes down sweet, but the toxicity accumulates over time. Here's how it typically sounds. "I love how confident you are, but sometimes I worry that you come across as arrogant to other people. I'm just looking out for you because I care." Or, "You're so smart, but you might want to consider that not everyone can keep up with you. Maybe try to be more aware of how your intelligence affects others." Notice the formula: compliment plus concern plus criticism disguised as care. They're not attacking you. Oh no, they're helping you become a better person. They're not tearing you down. They're building you up by pointing out your flaws. This is what psychologists call crazy-making communication. The psychological impact is devastating because it's so hard to defend against. How do you argue with someone who claims to be helping you? How do you get angry at someone who says they're worried about you? They've made it impossible for you to reject their criticism without looking defensive, ungrateful, or unable to handle feedback. What's particularly cruel is that they often target your strengths and reframe them as weaknesses. Are you confident? You're arrogant. Are you successful? You're showing off. Are you happy? You're being insensitive to others who struggle. They systematically dismantle your positive self-image under the guise of helping you become more self-aware. The long-term damage is profound. You start to question every positive trait you have. You begin to shrink yourself, dim your light, and minimize your accomplishments to avoid their helpful observations. You develop what therapists call success anxiety, fear that any achievement or positive trait will be used against you. they're also masters of timing. They deliver these criticism sandwiches at your most vulnerable moments, right after you've shared an accomplishment, when you're feeling good about yourself, or when you're already dealing with stress. It's like they have a radar for joy and feel compelled to puncture it with their reality checks. Your protection strategy: learn to recognize the formula. When someone leads with a compliment but follows with but or however, prepare yourself for manipulation. Respond with something like, "I appreciate that you care about me. If you have specific concerns, let's discuss them directly. But I won't accept criticism disguised as care." The most damaging aspect of this manipulation is how it corrupts genuine feedback. In healthy relationships, partners do help each other grow and provide honest observations. But there's a clear difference between feedback that builds you up and criticism that tears you down while pretending to help. Sign number 7. The reality revision expert. This is the deadliest sign, and if you recognize this pattern, please understand that what you're experiencing has a name: covert gaslighting. Unlike obvious gaslighting, where someone directly contradicts your memory or perception, covert gaslighting is subtle, sophisticated, and almost impossible to prove. Here's how it typically unfolds. You have a conversation where your partner agrees to something. Let's say they'll handle dinner plans for your anniversary. The day arrives and nothing is planned. When you bring it up, they don't deny the conversation happened. Instead, they revise the context. "I said I would think about dinner plans, but I was clearly overwhelmed that day. I thought you understood that I needed help with it." They're not changing the facts. They're changing the meaning of the facts. The conversation did happen, but according to their revision, you misunderstood the commitment level, the timeline, or the implied conditions. This makes it almost impossible to argue because technically they're not lying about what was said. This is psychological warfare at its most sophisticated level. They're using what experts call contextual manipulation, changing the framework around events to alter their meaning. They might admit that they said something hurtful, but they'll revise the context. "I only said that because I was hurt by what you did earlier." The hurtful words aren't denied, but the responsibility for them is transferred to you. The neurological impact of this manipulation is profound and often permanent. Your brain starts to distrust its own processing. You begin to question not just your memory, but your understanding, your interpretation, and your right to feel hurt by what you experienced. It's like having a computer virus that makes you doubt your own operating system. What makes this particularly devastating is that they often have excellent memories for details that support their narrative, while conveniently forgetting details that contradict it. They'll remember exactly what you were wearing when you overreacted to their comment, but they'll forget the comment that triggered your reaction. You'll find yourself in conversations where you feel crazy because you know something happened, you know how it felt, but you can't prove your interpretation was correct. They've made you doubt your own sanity while maintaining plausible deniability for their own behavior. The long-term damage includes what therapists call epistemic insecurity, a deep uncertainty about your own ability to perceive and interpret reality correctly. You start to defer to their version of events, even when it contradicts your direct experience. You lose trust in your own judgment, your own feelings, and your own memories. Your emergency protection protocol: start documenting. Keep a private journal of conversations and events. Send yourself emails summarizing important discussions. This isn't about catching them in lies. It's about maintaining your own sanity and connection to reality. Most importantly, trust your emotional experience even when you can't prove your interpretation. If a conversation left you feeling hurt, confused, or diminished, that emotional reality is valid regardless of how they reframe the content of what was said. If you've recognized your partner in these 7 signs, I want you to know 3 crucial things. First, you're not crazy. The confusion, self-doubt, and emotional exhaustion you've been experiencing are normal responses to abnormal treatment. Your reality is valid, your feelings matter, and your perception of these patterns is likely accurate. Second, this isn't your fault, and it's not something you can fix through better communication, more patience, or changing your own behavior. Covert narcissism is a personality pattern, not a relationship problem. You cannot love someone into becoming capable of genuine empathy or healthy communication. Third, recognizing these patterns is the first step toward reclaiming your psychological freedom. You have the right to be in a relationship where your needs matter, where your feelings are validated, and where you don't have to walk on eggshells or question your own sanity. Remember, healthy love feels safe, not crazy-making. Healthy partners want to understand you, not control your reality. Healthy relationships involve 2 people taking responsibility for their own emotions and behaviors, not one person constantly managing the other's feelings while abandoning their own. Your healing is possible, your peace is achievable, and you deserve a love that builds you up instead of slowly tearing you down while pretending to care. I want to hear from you in the comments below. Which of these 7 signs resonated most strongly with your experience? Sometimes naming these patterns is the first step toward breaking free from them. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear to recognize their own situation. If this video helped you understand your relationship dynamics better, please share it with someone who might need this information. Covert narcissistic abuse thrives in isolation and confusion. Awareness and community are our strongest defenses. And please subscribe to this channel if you found value here. Every subscription helps this content reach people who are questioning their sanity in relationships, wondering if they're too sensitive, or feeling trapped by someone who seems so caring on the surface. Your support literally saves lives by bringing clarity to those who need it most.